In this video, I'm showing you how I design t-shirts using AI for paying clients. That is right, and it's sort of controversial. A lot of people are not going to be happy with this video. They're going to get mad. They're probably gonna be keyboard warriors and write whatever they want to write. But the truth is, the world is evolving, and as designers, we have to evolve too. I don't look at AI as a one-stop shop to be lazy and just, generate an image using Midjourney or whatever have you and slap it on a shirt and call it done. That's not the way I approach it. I approach AI as a tool, just like I do any other tool that I use in my arsenal, such as Envato Elements, Unsplash.com, Pexels, font websites, you name it. Any resource that I use, that's just a tool. It's not a definitive solution that solves all your problems immediately. Design is all about problem solving, and there's usually more than one way to solve a problem with design. And whether that's using AI or, like I said, Envato Elements or some font website to find the right font for your design, it doesn't matter. You guys get what I'm saying here? There's pros and cons to everything, of course. That's just how life works. But I did write down some benefits of using AI, at least for me, and they might change for you. But the first one on my list is saving time. In my opinion, AI allows me to just focus on the design and not looking for the right images. So it saves me a ton of time. Another benefit is there's more options on the market. Obviously, you can just generate an image using a prompt, and that just saves me so much time because I get to use my imagination to create what I envision for the design or what I think the final design should look like. I can kind of actually make that happen now by using prompts, and that was kind of unheard of before. Normally you just have to license an image and then pay for it and hope that the client likes it, and you might waste a little bit of money here and there. But now I can generate unlimited images that are based off what I have in my mind, and that's just super helpful. So another thing that I think is a benefit is copyright. Obviously, when you're looking for images online, you're going to run into some copyright issues, especially if you haven't licensed it or you didn't find the image on the right website. Like if you're using Pinterest or Tumblr to find your images, you're most certainly probably going to get sued one day. You have to make sure they're free for personal use and commercial use before you use them. And you should even have some sort of PDF download with the image or something attached to it saying that you can use it for, in case you get sued, let's say, you have some sort of documentation. That way you can save your own ass, to put it bluntly. But I think with AI, it's a lot easier to not worry about copyright since it is kind of like a unique generation, although a lot of people are generating images constantly nonstop. As we're speaking, millions of images are being generated, but they're all unique in a certain way. So I think copyright is less of a problem with AI, and I can see that landscape changing, as time goes by, but as of right now, I don't think it's an issue. So those are the benefits or the pros for me as a designer. Now, cons for me would probably be that AI is kind of frowned upon right now. A lot of other people don't like it, and there's a lot of haters out there that are just going to tell you don't use AI images, all this good stuff. But I rather adapt than be left behind. That's just the way I look at things. Another con is you're limited by your imagination. So if you don't know what kind of prompts to use, you might not find the right images right away, and it takes a little practice, but that's about it. I'm sure we can go over a lot more, but that's gonna be very boring. So without further ado, let's go into the design process and how I made this design using Midjourney, and I think you guys are gonna find it interesting. Let's go. I wanna show you what I had before I used Midjourney, and these were all photos I found on, let's say, Pinterest or Google. I forgot exactly where I found them, but I know it was probably Pinterest, Google, or Unsplash.com. Those are usually the first places that I check for inspiration or finding images. But again, the problem with doing it this way is Unsplash, for one, is safe. I already know that. But Pinterest is never safe. You can never rely on Pinterest. If you're finding images on there, you're doing something wrong. It's almost like gambling. Like you're throwing all your chips, you're betting everything, hoping that you win. And then this other image right here, I didn't use because, well, it's just kind of dog shit. This one was not AI generated. This was also found, I think this was found on Google, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a really low resolution image. It's not going to be great for t-shirt design, so I did not use it. This one, I believe, was found on Google. Can't use it because I don't know if it's free to use or not. This one was also found on Google. Can't use it. So you guys get the point. And then if we compare it to the AI generated images, you can see that they're much higher quality. They're very unique looking. Like you're not going to find this on Google. And again, it's just a way better image. This one is actually one of my favorite that I generated, all using Midjourney. And as you can see, it's a much higher quality photo and there's just a lot more to like about it. So I'm in Discord and I have a private Midjourney server set up. So you guys can actually do that if you want. And there's tutorials on it. I'm not gonna show it in this video, but you could definitely do it really easy. But basically the client requested, they wanted an angry Doberman and they also wanted a cemetery. So when I was initially doing my prompts, I was trying to do both at the same time. And this is what it came up with. But the problem I had here is that the Doberman didn't look very angry or fierce, so I didn't really like that. Now I could have replaced the head on it and put a more angry Doberman, but I just didn't want to go that route. So I ended up trying to separate them a little bit more. And I did try some other renders, but they just looked really weird and just like way too happy. So these didn't work out. And I kept trying angry fierce Doberman dog showing teeth, sitting in cemetery. This one just looked funky. Like, I don't know, it looked like he was about to morph into another animal or something. Weird. Didn't work out. And then I just kind of focused on the cemetery first, and then I kind of like worked backwards. So this is my prompt: creepy, spooky cemetery, moon and sky. I really like the top left version, so I ended up rendering that as a full image. And as you can see, it's just so much better. Like, this looks sick. And I went back to trying to find an angry, fierce Doberman, and this is what I was getting, and it just did not look very good. So I had to be a little patient. And at the end of the day, I tried a different prompt: angry hellhound, Doberman dog, sharp teeth, drooling. And this is what it came up with. And I really, really like the top left one and the bottom right one. Now, I'm looking at the top left one and that one could have worked, but I really like the angle of the bottom right one. So obviously these will never be original. They're just AI generations, but there are ways we can make it more unique and stand out more than just slapping these on a shirt and calling it done. So that's where Photoshop comes into play. And now I'm gonna break down the layers of the design. Here's the final composition that was approved by the client, but I used a lot of processing techniques that allowed this design to stand out versus just being a AI image that was slapped on a shirt. So the way I did that, let's actually hide this first group real quick and let's dive into the dog layers, which that's what I labeled it because you know, this kind of hosts all the different effects and stuff like that. So if I hide the texture layers, you're going to notice that I have a hue and saturation layer that's affecting the background. And that's because the background had a lot of blues and I didn't want that. So I shifted the hue over towards the greens to match the overall color palette. And if I hide it, you can see that reflect. And the text we're gonna go over last because I did use a plugin for that. So at the very top here, it's basically just the effects copied over, and then I just basically used a layer mask to mask out only the dog. So if I were to invert this right now, you're going to see it only affects the background. So that's kind of the way the effect works. And it's kind of like the last video that we did. Starting from the top, I have a pattern fill just like we did in the last video. I have a halftone pattern and I found these on TrueGrit Texture Supply. And I have it set to 30% scale, and the blend mode is set to overlay. If I set it to normal, obviously it looks like this and it doesn't look very good. So I set that to overlay to basically keep the integrity of the normal image intact. And then we have a gradient map, which is super important for the overall colors. And let's go ahead and check out that. So on the left, I have it set to black. And then on the middle, I have more of like a grayish color. The right, I have that green. And if I change that color, you can see that it really does change the entire look of the design. And then on the right, I have a highlight layer. So that's kind of the way it works. And I don't reverse it or dither it or anything like that. And the blend mode is set to multiply, which is super important for this particular concept here. Now, if you have a completely different image, that might need to change to a different blend mode. You can always try overlay, color, but I like multiply a lot. And then I have a posterize effect. It just gives it more of a grungy look, and I have this set to 6 levels, which also kind of helps the gradient map out its colors, because if you look at the gradient map, I have how many colors do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. By setting the posterize effect to 6, I have more than 4 levels, so the gradient map's easily able to map out the colors based on that posterize effect. So you want to make sure when you apply adjustment layers like posterize that the gradient map has enough colors to make up for it. So again, this has 6 levels and my gradient has 4 colors. So it's able to successfully map out all those colors because I have over 4 levels. I could always take this posterize effect and set it to 4, but the effect to me doesn't look as good. So I set it to 6 and it gives it a little bit more information to work with. And it also helps with things like banding and stuff like that. So I just like the way that looks. And then finally, this level adjustment, it's basically like my mid-tone offset. We could just name this offset actually. So this allows me to effectively adjust the tones one by one. So we have shadows right here, we have midtones, and then we have the highlights. So the highlight is set to 196 and the midtone is set to 1.77. And if I change it any more to the left or right, you can see it drastically changes the overall look. So I keep that at 1.77, and this will change depending on the image used. Basically all images have different tonal ranges, so that's why they are never the same. So that's the offset right there, super important, and that is set to normal. The posterize effect is set to luminosity. So if you guys want to write that down as a note, set posterize to luminosity, and then above that set the gradient map to multiply, and you're good to go. And you can always like actually lower the opacity fill of that gradient to like 50%, and you'll see that it changes the overall look of the image. I usually just keep it at 100% though, depending on what the image calls for. That's the effects broken down, and I use this for everything on the composition as far as the text goes, the dog, and the background. The only difference is the layer mask. So I want to mask out different parts of the image to use, because if I want to make an adjustment, let's say to the dog, I don't want it to affect the background because the background's a completely different image. So I use layer masks to isolate each object individually or each asset individually. And in this case, we have 2 or 3 if you want to count the logo. So each one needs to be affected differently. And that's the reason for the layer mask. So just keep that in mind. So let's turn that off and on. You'll see the difference there. And then the highlight bloom is basically the overall composition. And I only took the highlight tone and then added a Gaussian blur to it and changed the blend mode to lighter color, 50% opacity. And that's how I get that bloom effect. And I made a tutorial on this, so you guys definitely want to check that out. I also have a TikTok and an Instagram that goes over that effect as well. So if you guys don't follow me on those, I definitely would recommend it. And then I have these lens flares, and we can actually name this lens flare right and then lens flare left. And obviously the blend mode is set to screen, so we ignore all black and it blends in with the image beautifully that way. So if I toggle that on and off, you can see there's a major difference there. And that is so the eyes don't look so default. I wanted to make this look a little bit more unique versus just using the AI image from Midjourney. So this kind of allowed it to stand out a little bit more. And then obviously we have the main dog layer with a crystallize effect, and this basically allows the image to look a little bit more painted. And I think it looks pretty good. You can also use oil paint if you want to try that out, but I like crystallize a lot. What I ended up doing was duplicate the dog layer and add a slight Gaussian blur, and each layer gets more intense. So on this one, it's a 2.7 radius, and on the bottom one, it's a little bit more, it's a 9.5 pixel. So what that does is it gives you this nice natural blur. I could have used outer glow instead, and that probably would have done the job, but I really like it this way. And then with the layer mask, you could just mask out the areas that you want to keep or get rid of using black and white as a brush color. But if I skip over that, you're gonna see there's another effects layer group, and that is only affecting the background because there's nothing in between or under it or anything like that but the background. So if I hide it, you're gonna see that it's only affecting the background, but I do have a slight color cast here, and that is basically the highlight bloom layer. So if I hide that, you can see that. And another thing is I need to hide the background, but that's basically what it looks like without the background at all. And if I turn that layer highlight bloom back on, and if I turn the highlight bloom back on, you're gonna see that it reappears, but that's only because that's the highlights of the background layer. So that's why you're seeing that. And if I turn the effects back on and the background, you can see everything comes together. And just like before, I have a crystallize effect with a cell size of 10. So to demonstrate how I did the text on the top, I'm just actually going to open up a new document, and we're gonna type out something in whatever font, it doesn't even matter. Let's just type out Veda. All right, cool, we can use this font, doesn't matter which one you use, but preferably something a little more bold, and that's pretty much it. So what I ended up doing was I actually took the fill all the way to 0%. I added a stroke, and this will allow you to get that outline. So that's the outline, and we can make this as thick or thin as we want. So we'll go about right here with it. And now let's duplicate it. And then at this point, we want to take the stroke off and then take the fill back up to 100% and make this black. But keep in mind, we have that stroke still, right? So if you hide everything else, You can basically just put the stroke above everything if you wanted to, or keep it below, doesn't really matter. But on this other layer, which is black right now, you can start adding the plugin effects that I'm about to show you. So I'm gonna convert this to a smart object, and that is simply so the effect stacks. And then from here, I'm gonna go up to filter, exposure software, eye candy 7. And that again is a plugin that I downloaded. But the cool thing about it is it has this lightning effect, and that's what I used for this design. And I basically just copied the contour of my text. So for example, there's 2 anchor points, and I'm just gonna drag it out about right here and then press OK. You can also change the settings and the colors and all that stuff. But I do that later on with a hue and saturation adjustment. And that's pretty much it for this effect. And I just repeat the process. So another optional step that I took was I added an outer glow to my my stroke layer here. And this allowed me to make it glow a little bit more, and it matched the lightning a little bit more as well. So I went up a little bit on it, sort of like that. It's not perfect, but this is pretty much what I did. And then I just adjusted the eye candy filter until it looks like it belonged, pretty much. I know that sounds like really a shitty way of explaining it, but that's pretty much what I did. And then at this point, I just took the stroke and put it above everything so it actually blends. The only thing bad about putting the stroke above is you get this weird look right here. So you might want to put it above everything again, and then just change the blend mode to like multiply or screen or something like that. And that will help kind of blend everything together, as you can see. And this looks so much better already. So on the eye candy layer, it's set to screen, and then you could just basically duplicate it and then change the effect around. So we can put one right here, for example, and the blend mode's already set to screen. So it's gonna blend into everything beautifully. There you go. And you can even just move it honestly like this. Like you don't have to do it that way. And then I had one going across as well. So we could do that sort of like that. And then I moved it around until it looked right. So that's pretty much how I created that Veda logo effect with the lightning. So let's look at the final here with the logo. It took a lot of time to fine tune it. You can mess with things like the thickness of the lightning just using that plugin. So it does take some time to get used to, and you will have to play with the settings quite a bit, but this is the final, and I really like the way it turned out. And if I were to go print this, what I do is I duplicate everything on a separate layer. And then from here, you just go select color range. And then you basically only want to select the shadows. And then you want to make sure the range is set to 0%, and then just change the fuzziness just a little bit, invert it, and something like this, press OK. And then we can basically cut that out, delete that layer, paste it. And now you are left with just the ink, and toggle the background back on to check to make sure nothing was deleted too much. And that's pretty much it. So this is the layer that you would send to the screen printer essentially if you're DTG printing. If you're doing screen printing, you will have to do like color separations and all that good stuff. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's exactly how I approached it. I hope you guys enjoyed this layer breakdown video. If you guys are looking to step up your merch design game, maybe you just want to learn Photoshop, I have a mastering merch design course that just dropped, and it's kind of early access right now, so it is at its cheapest price. And to top it off, I gave you guys a 15% off coupon code in the description below, so you guys can sign up right now and get 15% off. It is at its cheapest price. You guys get lifetime access to it, so once you sign up, you don't have to pay for it again. But that is pretty much it for this video. Again, if you guys want to see anything else, let me know in the comment section below. My name is Charlie Pengus. I will catch you guys in the very next video. Peace.